the D is like running that way, and I see Josh Sanderson walking this way, and he's got his like head tilted, and he looks pissed, and he just yells in a quiet arena, "Stop the fucking ball!"
You're listening to the Stripped Podcast by the Lacrosse Flash, talking all things life and lacrosse with Tyson Geik and Colton Clark.
Once again.
Eventually comes loose there to stop Poulin. The same rebound is there. And Poulin with another save. Oh my goodness. As he robs John Grant Jr.
Welcome back to the Strip Podcast. Tyson Geik, my co-host Colton Clark here. And on today's episode, we have a very special guest before his game in Vancouver tonight. A product of the Kitchener-Waterloo Braves organization. Spent time with the Calgary Roughnecks in the NLL and an NLL champion with the Georgia Swarm, and still killing it in your later years in the league. We're going to play a fun game right now, Colton.
Fun game.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to play guess how many points Mike Poulin has. It'll probably shock you in his career.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. How many years you played?
This is 14 playing.
14 playing. Okay. We're going to go with, I feel like you must have had a season in there where you got like close to 10 assists. You think? So
Okay,
I'm going to guess in the 50s.
In the 50s? Do you want
50s.
to take a guess?
I
It's
guess. Let's go 65.
Oh, okay. I undershot it.
Okay, you're both under.
Can I re-guess? Okay,
Wow, both
78.
under.
78.
Close. Very close.
All right, let's
Are
go
we ready?
79.
80 points.
Oh shit.
80 points.
Wow.
And I should have mentioned that you also spent time with Boston and Toronto.
Oh, there's been a few stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pit stops here.
No shame in that.
Orangeville.
Orangeville?
Spent some time there. 2 years
Oh,
junior Orangeville.
We won't talk about that.
All right, you got it.
Being Kitchener-Waterloo Braves guys. But anyways, Mike, welcome to the Strip Podcast.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Great to have you here.
This is awesome.
And when we started this, you reached out to me, and you were kind of a fan of the project.
Yeah.
So why did it? I'd like to know why it kind of piqued your interest.
I like the whole idea of like having a sit down, cracking beer. I really wish I could right now, and just shooting the shit over lacrosse.
This
I
isn't going to air until
that's true. That's
you,
true.
you may win. You guys may win the game, and
That's
Nothing's
true.
offside.
That's
Right.
true.
you're going into Vancouver. Nothing is offside.
Yeah, I'll be asking you guys to maybe edit that part out. And after like I'm cracking a few. Yeah, I just like the idea of like talking lacrosse. I could sit all day with old school lacrosse guys and new school guys and just talk the game. And I love the idea. Like, let's just sit down and what's going on with the game these days? What was it like? I've had an interesting perspective because when I came into the league in 2006, like the world was different. There was no Twitter.
Yeah.
There was no social media. We didn't even watch video.
Yeah.
So now where we're at today, I've had a pretty interesting perspective of like today's game and somewhat the old school game. So I just like talking lacrosse.
That's been a big thing for Tyson and I. Obviously, like when we discussed doing this over a year ago, we were like, well, we want it to be different than the ones that are currently out there. We're not X's and O's kind of guys. And we wanted to also give it a fan something to look at, just be able to see the players that we're talking to. And it was important to us to not do the call in. I just, I've tried to listen to those kind of podcasts, and like I say, kudos to the guys who can do those ones, but I can't sit down and listen to a voice call in, for an hour and a half. So this is.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before too, like nothing against those who are doing that. We've got a lot of limitations in lacrosse, obviously. Yep. Not having guys in market, and guys have other jobs to deal with. It's not like they're just playing lacrosse, right? So to get them to actually come in and sit down and have a conversation, it can be tough, but so far so good when we can get guys in. And
I wish we could have got Pete McFath, their chief, rolled into the studio. Well, studio at the living room. And today he'd be a great guy to sit down and talk to.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stories. He'll definitely be she should be on your list. He can talk.
So another big fan of the podcast has been Logan Schuss. Shout out to Logan. And he had a couple questions that he thought we should kind of ask.
Okay.
So one of them was, who has the best chirps in the NLL?
Logan was hoping you'd say him.
He talks a lot.
Does he? Is he good on? He's pretty quick, right?
I mean, he's quick. That's the thing. As a goalie, you're always the target, right? I'm the guy with the ball going behind me. Surprisingly, Ben McIntosh chirps a lot, and like he's a really quiet guy.
Yeah.
And I was in Calgary playing with his brother, and I'd be like, "Hey, Garrett, tell your fucking brother to shut up. Like, he's always got something to say." So it was Ben a lot. Logan will laugh and just like not be rude. He won't cut you to the core, but he's always got something quick. Like there's a lot of guys, surprisingly. It's just those comments. Like even last week, I gave up a goal I should have never given up, and like Dan Taylor is like, "That was from a long ways out," and I'm just like, "I know, Dan, I know." So I mean, it's hard to pinpoint exactly who's the best. Logan's up there, but for me, it's always been Ben because like I didn't even know him. Everybody talks about how quiet he is, and he just always be stinging me after every goal. And like Calgary, Saskatchewan games, I was giving up a lot of goals, so he was always on me.
Oh man. Okay. Is there anyone that's like absolutely ruthless? Is he ruthless, or is
No.
there someone that maybe comes to mind that's like, holy shit, man, like he's up?
Well, they weren't directed at me,
Okay.
but Jeff Schneider's ruthless. Like Snides has the best chirps ever, and they're ruthless. Like he plans these things out.
He would have
and
been suspended
delivers.
in today's game.
Like
There are a couple
heard-
things that are offside.
I've heard. Can I even like?
You can cut it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah. It's like, what are you even doing here? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, we're cutting.
okay. And
that's good.
But like, Snides was just like a whole nother level. Like, he'd want to know, what's up with guys. Like, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And like, he's such an interesting guy. But he and I, once we became teammates in Calgary, we got along perfectly. Like, I laugh at everything. I love to like chuck it up. And he just needed me there to just, yeah, keep saying it, man. That's awesome. But that was, he was the most ruthless.
Well, while we're on the topic of best, who do you think, we asked one of our past guests, I think, who do you think like the best, the Connor McDavid right now of the league is?
Jeff Teat on the way up, maybe.
I mean, like the best, the
like
best player,
okay,
the best
you're
player
talking
in the
like
game.
currently
We discussed like there's guys.
I know guys have said Haas, and he is like so I won't pump his tires any more than they are because
Right.
he's so friggin' good. But like Dixon is still unstoppable. He's so friggin' good, and he's strong. Like he has the worst bag in his stick ever. He can't make a pass, so you'd think he gets the ball, send everybody, but you can't stop him. Like it doesn't make any sense. And Lyle's fantastic. Lyle Thompson is so good.
Just slippery.
He's slippery, and the way he plays the game, he plays it the right way. I like to say, because I've played on teams with the best players in the game, but he practices hard. He prepares, intense. So like he just plays the game the right way, and then still like killing it after all these 8 years and like injuries and everything. Cody Jamieson is just like, to me, he is a put a team on your back kind of guy. So like Haas is above. Like it's unbelievable what he does. And then like Dix, Lyle, and Jammer, I'm not surprising anyone, but those guys as a goalie looking at offenses I prepare for, they're the guys that you're like, okay, there you go.
Dixon's like his lateral movement and his strength
Yeah.
that goes along with that is ridiculous. Like he stops on a dime and then restarts and pushes you out of the way, and he's going straight to the cooker.
For me, he's probably my favorite guy to watch.
For
in
sure.
the league,
Yeah.
because it's always something creative. Like he makes something out of nothing, and it's just like, what was that? Like
Mark Matthews is one of those guys too.
Yeah.
That's just enjoyable to watch. You don't know if he's going to score, if he's going to make an unbelievable pass.
Well, I think all three of those players that we've mentioned have that ability to kind of like, knock a guy in, like back him in and then pull out and shoot. Right.
Yeah.
And like I played against Mark and Jammer, and like he was scary when he was coming down on you. Right. Cause you just back in and like, there's nothing you could do because they're just so strong.
And I mean, as a goalie and in the way the game's played now, you study tendencies. You look at video, you see what guys do when they put their shoulder down and back up, but like, what they're supposed to be doing, what they should be doing, and you still can't stop it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Dixon is, so I came to Calgary in 2010, and we had a good team. They had won it the year before, and we were upset in the playoffs. And then it was like a rebuild. It really was. Like we traded away Jeff Molesky. Who else left that year? So Lewis was gone the year before. Molesky's gone. Josh Sanderson goes. There's one more guy. And Tracy Koleski.
Mm-hmm.
So we trade those guys away, and we get the number 2 overall pick, and it's Tracy. It's Dixon.
Yeah.
And he comes in, he's like, yeah, I want 17. And like Tracy was just 17, captain, face of the franchise. He's like, yeah, 17. And, somewhat of a rebuild, you'd think. You lose those guys, that veteran leadership. And he just immediately was like, confidence in his game and who he is. And he came out, and we were supposed to be, because that's when like oil crashed, right? So Bannister was, it was a different year. And he really, as a rookie, came in and put our team on his back offensively, and he hasn't slowed down since. Like, I can't believe it's actually been 10 years he's been in this league.
Yeah,
it's wild.
You guys still had on that team like Scott Ranger and Caleb Toth was still there at the time.
Yep, Nina was there.
You guys still weren't like a slouch. You're still a good
yeah,
team.
We still had lots of players. It wasn't like we were, and that's the cool thing. People were like, look at all the guys we got rid of. Everyone was doubting us, but we still had 2 years removed from a championship, a lot of good D guys, the Carnegie brothers, Bruce Codd, good leadership goes a long way in sports.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of good players. We had Ranger, and then Shatler was still there, Shatler Doby. So I guess I kind of built it up like we weren't going to be, but he came in.
yeah, true.
Yeah, way
we
to
were
call me
shit,
out on that one,
but we had all
Colton.
these superstars.
But he, you just never would have expected the confidence in this guy to come in and do what he did. Because right from his rookie year, I think maybe Jammer was the number 1 pick that year, and he came in as 2. And we traded away Josh Sanderson to get that 2 pick. So you think the best player or the best passer in the history of the game, we lose our captain. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think, dude. I'm trying to go back through the strip notes here. I have each episode. Dixon's on here. Where is it? He was drafted number 3 overall, not number 2.
Damn it. You've called me out twice now. That's the last time I'm talking about Curtis Dixon.
Yeah, last time I'm going on this fucking podcast.
So you play in a market like Calgary, which is probably one of the best places to play in terms of the fan support. And everyone knows what lacrosse is for the most part. Mm-hmm. And you go to a market like Georgia where lacrosse is relatively new and you're really trying to build that fan base. And we've seen some growth there. So how has that been in that transition? I mean, the team's obviously won a championship, but now you're starting to see the growth come a couple years later.
Yeah, I'll go back one too. So I started being in Calgary, you're right. Unbelievable atmosphere. They know the game. They're passionate about it, which is awesome. But as a goalie, by the time I was leaving, they were ready for me to be gone. It would be the score would be 1-0 and they'd be chanting, "We want Frankie. So I was like,
seriously,
all right, see you guys. It's been fun. Good 7 years. So it was awesome. So leaving there, I'm an East Coast guy, 7 years flying in and out. It made sense. It was the right timing. But then coming to Georgia, I went to Georgia as a free agent knowing their offense is stacked. They're going to score a ton. I didn't know much else about the team, about the organization. We played there in Calgary and there was no crowd. It was a Sunday afternoon. It was really bad. So the next year, it still wasn't better. We had a great team. We brought in Ludacris for a halftime show. It was crazy. But we weren't getting.
There's been some crazy shit like that throughout the NL.
Yeah,
crazy appearances.
Bruce Irvin's done some things, and with the Rush, he's brought George St. Pierre, some awesome.
I think we talked about that on the one episode. I was playing at that point. I played in that game, and I remember running down the floor and seeing GSP standing on the bench. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is George? He's just leaning against the glass.
That kind of thing works in Edmonton, though, right? They're probably eating that up.
Oh, they would have loved the Affliction jeans in Edmonton. Come on,
Ed Hardy hats.
That's it. So that you nailed it. John Arlotta is committed to building it there. And he knew I'm going to a market in Duluth, Georgia that is not a lacrosse hotbed, where I don't think Saskatchewan was either, but they took the championship winning team and put them in Saskatchewan. And now, it didn't take long. Winning always helps.
Yeah.
So we came there, and my first 2 years, the crowds weren't great. They really weren't. There's no sugarcoating it. Right. 2,000, 3,000 people a game. But they've worked at it. They've spent a lot of money. They hired a lot of people. They're committed to it being there. It's not we're here for 3 years and we're done. And it's growing. I think we're about 8,500, 9,000 people a game now. And that surprises people when I say that, but
Yeah.
the crowds are actually really good there. So it's been growing. I know a lot of people are upset because they left Minnesota, and Minnesota had a passionate fan base. Like lacrosse, it's the business side of things.
Yeah.
So the Arladas are sitting in Minnesota, and they've got a good team, and they like it there. But they were only offered Sunday afternoons. Like they were given, here's your 9 dates. There's Sunday afternoons. Minnesota is big for hockey and concerts, so they weren't given a single Saturday or Friday night. So as a business, they're like, well, it's the most expensive, one of the most expensive arenas in the league. We're gonna get like what shows to be a terrible time slot for selling tickets. And that's our only hope. So they made a decision, and it upset people in Minnesota, rightfully so, when you take a team away. But at the end of the day, like they want to see their business succeed, and they didn't think that was the right way to go about doing it. And I think it's doing pretty well in Georgia.
From a media standpoint, I have to say, for the past like 4 or 5 seasons, I think Georgia's been one of the best with what they're putting out there on social and stuff. Like the coverage is great. The branding looks on point. And there's other teams in the league that need to take note of that and play catch up, because Georgia is doing that right. Yeah. So it's funny how, with a lot of teams, like there's some things working for some organizations and other things that aren't. And, it's just, I think all teams have to kind of learn from one another, but Georgia's got that part of it down. And I like the efforts like Ludacris and 2 Chainz coming in. That was pretty, and he was actually like shooting around.
He was cool. Awesome. So, and he was the one where it was our home opener. We won the championship the year before. So it was like the banner raising, and Rochester played the night before and their flight was canceled. So like they were scrambling. The league was ready to like cancel the game and reschedule it. Yeah. And we're like, guys, we paid 2 Chainz to be here. We got like it's our banner. So he had like 3 hours to come and hang, and like he didn't just sit in his bus. He was actually in the room talking to the guys. He was awesome.
That's cool.
But in terms of like branding, yeah, you're right. The guy my first year there, he was hired by the Atlanta Hawks right after. So like Zach did some amazing work. Great guy. He goes to the Atlanta Hawks. We bring in this new guy, Shane, and he hasn't dropped the ball. Like he's done some amazing things in terms of social media, which like that's where lacrosse is going to find new fans is in social media. So they've done a really good job. I think, Halifax has really picked, like theirs has been awesome.
Charlie Ragusa, it's my guy.
Nice.
He's killing it over there.
Is he the one who shouted us out?
No, that's who.
Shane Wilson.
Shane did. Yeah.
Shout out Shane. Thanks.
Yeah, Shane. But even like the league is getting better. Like their branding on their website, everything, like it still has a long way to go. I think we, not just trying to pump your tires because we're sitting together, but like the personalities go a long way, and they had a great one in you. And in terms of like actually doing stuff, 5 years ago, the league did, or longer than that, one was like 2010, there was nothing. Like there was no social media at all. So it's come a long way, but it still has a long way to go. But they're making more of a point to do it.
Yeah, that's what I've talked about with the Lacrosse Flash and stuff, just building up the personalities, like be it players having the platform to speak about their lives and learn things like hot bags and whatever about guys that kind of make them tick, and like funny little tidbits. And then I think like the league has maybe been a little bit short-sighted in terms of the personalities off of the floor as well. Yeah, like we've got Shanny and stuff like that. Yep. But now I'm glad Teddy's got a bit more of a platform and a chance to speak. But you look at the NHL and NFL, and like they've got so many guys that you watch like round the clock.
It's amazing, and like you want to be pushed by other things like competition, and that's exactly what hopefully the PLL is doing, because it's a completely different game. They don't play at the same time of year as us. But their social media is like they're built as a media platform more so than a lacrosse league.
Yeah,
100%. The way, like the content they're putting out and like the sponsorship. So here's what's great about them is they sign a sponsorship like Ticketmaster, and then they like completely make a media blitz about that sponsorship, where we'll like sign a sponsor and it's like, hey, here's an article on NLL.com about that sponsorship. Great. What does that even mean? Whereas like the PLL powered by Ticketmaster, like do this contest to get tickets and a flight, and like they're all over it. So hopefully that takes our league and shows us a thing or two, like, hey, here's what we need to do. So, fingers crossed
Yeah,
that's how we're going to grow.
It'll be interesting to see now that, the PLL is going into year 2, like what moves they make. And then now that the NLL has had time to digest what the PLL is doing, it's like your move. Like, what are you guys going to do?
Yeah.
I think, the NLL has taken steps, but there is still a long way to go. And I would like to see, some leaps taken instead of steps, but, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, I got nothing to say on that. You guys know I love talking about business and the business of the NLL. We can sit here and talk about it all day. But I do have a question for you. Tyson mentioned in your intro kind of the different teams that you played for. You've been traded from a few different teams, but have you ever been cut from any teams in your career?
Not in lacrosse.
Never in lacrosse.
Good question.
It's a weird journey. Yeah. So like I started in minor as like just showing up because I sucked at baseball. So I got cut from baseball a lot and I wanted to try a new sport and the team needed a goalie. So they threw me in there and then just kind of stuck with it because literally there wasn't another goalie. So I just got the short stick and had to stay goalie. And then I go to KW Braves and we had a really good young team and just kind of, we didn't hit our potential. Mm-hmm. So I then go to Orangeville and that was the first time where I ever like saw what lacrosse was, like what it could be. This team actually takes it serious. This team, cares about it. And that was the first time I ever saw potential of myself to actually go to the NLL. I grew up watching The Rock, grew up watching Bobby Watson, but that was like going to Orangeville and actually being like have expectations of myself. That was the first time when I thought, wow, this is something that I should start taking seriously.
Yeah.
No drinking the night before games, no just I actually like watched a ton of lacrosse starting then. And then I was drafted by Buffalo, 21st overall, not a big deal. And I was the third string goalie there. So that was a bit of like, not adversity, like not cut, because when you're a young guy, that's what's expected.
Yeah.
Is you come in and you just take a lot of shots and that team could shoot the ball.
It's a humbling experience for sure.
Yeah.
Like I've never been a third string goalie, but I've definitely sat out for game after game after game. And it's just,
yeah. So that was humbling because I come in and it's like, no, you're literally just here to be a target. And we had like Corey Bomberry. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but we had
I recognize the name,
like AJ Shannon, Mark Steenhouse. And he was actually fantastic because I'm this young guy trying to get better. And he would be the one guy who'd like stick around after practice and just shoot on me. And he'd be like, no, I saw way too much over there. I'd come to this angle. He actually worked with me a lot as some nobody 19-year-old goalie out of junior coming up. So, that was pretty cool. But I didn't have like that team we lost in the championship that year to Colorado. I didn't have a sniff of like playing time. And that was fine. Like Steve Dietrich won league MVP that year. Like it was incredible to be behind him and or behind the guy behind him.
Yeah.
Then I was able to go in free agency to Toronto, and Matt Sawyer was my junior coach in Orangeville, and he was a scout with the Rock, so he connected me there. And then I spent 2 years there. But in terms of like being cut, that was the most like, it wasn't even being cut, but that was the experience of my career where I was like, wow, like I'm not anywhere in my mind like I thought I was. And that was like you said, it was humbling to just be a target.
Now, do you have any, given that position, do you have any words of wisdom for somebody who might be listening, who might, a third string goalie or somebody, any words of wisdom that can help them out and that's sitting in that, second, third, anything that they could do, to stay positive and stay, hungry? Yeah,
I learned it from that experience, but also seeing Del Bianco as our third string goalie in Calgary is don't be content.
Yeah.
Is don't be just like, hey, I'm here to be the guy to take shots. Is want to be the guy who's, like push the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
So when he's out there and you're out there taking shots and he's still like nowhere near the net, like use that as your chance to take someone's job.
Yeah.
And Del Bianco came into Calgary and, he had an unbelievable camp. Like I saw right away that my last year in Calgary was his first year. So he was practice roster that year. And you could see like, oh my God, this guy's good.
Yeah.
I knew everything I heard about him in junior, but I never saw him play. And right away, my first camp, I was like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
All right, writing's on the wall now. No, he was good.
Go.
And so just never be content with just being there and accepting your role. Like I always kind of say, like I'm 34 now. This is my 15th year in the NLL. And And like, I like to be reminded, like I'm being pushed. You know, I've got 2 good young goalies behind me in Georgia. And every year there's a draft where another goalie is being taken. So you can just never be content with as a starter, like always wanting to be better. But that young guy, it's like, why can't you come in and take my job?
Yeah. So you mentioned a little snippet back that I caught. You said about taking it lacrosse seriously and not drinking before games. Has there ever been a point in your career where you maybe didn't take lacrosse so seriously, and maybe you said fuck it, like I'm gonna drink before a game?
So Tyson liked this story. So when I was on the Braves, my first 2 years of junior A lacrosse, we had such a fun young team. So like everyone was from Kitchener-Waterloo. We had a really good group of young guys. So partying the night before was never out of question.
Yeah.
We would just always go out, and we always found a way to somehow let our GM, Corey Holman, know. Like he always found it, whether it was me literally picking up the phone and calling him and being like, you coming out tonight? We got this one tomorrow. We drank.
He's the best. Corey Holman is like, he got me my start in lacrosse and box lacrosse at least.
The guys love him. Like when you're on his teams, the guys
man.
love him. So we'd be like, oh, let's call him up. He's hilarious. He'll love it. And then we'd show up the next day and he'd just be like, I'm so disappointed in you guys. So when we had really good teams, and after my 3rd year, then I went to Orangeville, and that's, like I said, like things got serious. So like a 48-hour rule. Never even thought twice about it. Just no drinking before games. Like when I got to the NLL, it was like a 72-hour rule. Yeah. Just always wanted to be at my best. And you start to like read things and find out things like how your body performs after alcohol and stuff like that. I've had one slip up in the NLL. So that 2010 season, and so we go to Orlando. Orlando gets an NLL team. Couldn't be any better spot. Like it was an incredible post game. The weather was beautiful. They had a good team. But that first year, Josh Sanderson and I were the only Eastern guys on the team in Calgary. So we flew out, simple flight, East Coast down. You just, get there early. And the Calgary guys, the Western guys, all had a long day of travel. Yeah. So Shooter and I get in a bit early. And we sit by the pool, we're lounging, and it's like, well, it's time to go out for dinner. So we go out, we're going to walk. We find this like Mexican restaurant, and we sit down, and Shooter's like, well, bucket of Coronas, $5. Might as well get a bucket. And if Josh Sanderson orders a bucket of Coronas, you're drinking them.
Yeah. The peer pressure was real at that point.
Exactly. So we have a few beers, and someone bought us another bucket of beers. So it must have been like one of the 10 Orlando Titans fans in the area. Must have saw us 2 Calgary Roughneck guys having a drink, so they really turned it up a notch. So we had a couple more buckets sent our way. So loaded. No practice that night, end up just getting absolutely loaded. And so the next night, we're playing in Orlando, and I'm telling you, the shots were like 30 for Calgary, 12 for Orlando, and the score was 6-5. Like it was eye-opening. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh fuck, I've never done that. I'm playing like shit. I'm just down to myself. And I see after a goal that went in, I should have like never let come in. The D is like running that way, and I see Josh Sanderson walking this way, and he's got his like head tilted and he looks pissed, and he just yells in a quiet arena, "Stop the fucking ball." Like, Okay. And I couldn't tell you what the score was, what it finished off, but we won the game. I learned my lesson. I'm not the one to drink before an NLL game, but that was my slip up.
So that's like 4 years in the league at that point too. So you're still a relatively young guy, right?
That was my first year of starting. That was like, I was behind, like I was in Buffalo behind Dietrich, never going to play. 2 years in Toronto behind Watson, never going to play. And then I go to Boston. I think it's my shot. And then the Chicago Shamrocks fold 3 weeks before the season, and we get Anthony Cosmo in the dispersal draft. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, guess I'm not going to play. Yeah. So this was finally my shot, like 4 years of sitting back. And then, like I said, if Josh Sanderson says, let's have a beer, you have a beer.
That's fair. Yeah, I've played with a couple guys in my career, like my illustrious career. But some of the bigger names in the game, one guy was telling me, he's like, I used to, when I was in junior, he's like, I started, he's like, obviously we were drinking before games. He's like, the games were on weekends. He's like, we're not going to give up every single weekend. He's like, but it came to a point where I was drinking. He's like, it was almost like mental, where I was like, I played such a good game. He's like, and I continued to play good games. He's like, so I was like, I'm going to keep drinking like before every game. He's like, where's a point where I was drinking before every single game for years on end, whereas like sometimes I didn't even want to drink and I was drinking before games just so that because it was in my head that I wouldn't have a good game if I didn't get shit faced.
There's a ritual.
Yeah, I'm not going to drop the name, and hopefully at some point in our podcast career we get him on and he can tell his side of that. But yeah, that's I've only done it a few times in my career. I was kind of fell by that same philosophy of not drinking before games. I know that I don't play, like I don't get hangovers, as Tyson could tell you, but I'm not the same person. Yeah. So
I did it one time that I can remember, at least. I didn't like to drink before games either, but it was like junior B playoffs and we were playing in Cornwall and I had to go from where was I? Like just outside of Hamilton, and I got rinsed the night before. Like I think I polished like a 2-4. It was brutal. And I had to drive at like 6 a.m, wake up, probably still a little bit buckled, to be honest, and got to the game and I played all right. But like I remember we won that playoff series, and going back on the way home, everyone's like celebrating. I'm like, I can't even look at a beer.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to smell it.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
That's what like the Aquasasne trips were all about. Like, hey, let's just get through this game and then get back on the bus, and now we go.
Yeah, let's pick up a 2-4 and let's go. So you've spent a lot of time in the NLL with a number of different teams, and obviously you've got to see lacrosse in different markets. What's been your favorite place to go in and kind of visit and just like take in, both from maybe like
besides Georgia, of course.
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah,
maybe both from like a fan standpoint, like what building you like to play in, and then also the partying afterwards.
Without a doubt, like the best atmosphere, party city was Boston. Yeah. Boston was incredible. And like you guys will get this, as the whole like logistics side of things, we'd land at the airport. The arena was 5 miles away. The hotel was a mile away, from 100 yards from there. We had a place called the Blazers Den where they moved like 6 guys into town, and that was 100 yards away from, and it was all downtown Boston. So like New England, because they're there and doing well, like I'm sure we won't see Boston again, but that market was unbelievable. We're right in the TD Bank Arena. Yeah. Like amazing bar scene afterwards, and it's a sports town. So even though, like, again, that's another one of those bad timing. Like the arena deal sucked. They were paying a ton to be there, so that's why we weren't there anymore. But they actually had good crowds. Yeah. And that was an awesome environment. I loved playing in Minnesota. I loved that arena, the Excel Center in Colorado. That was another great one. But I think like today's game, I think Saskatchewan's a blast. Yeah. Going there, the post game's awesome. Obviously the weather sucks, but yeah, I really enjoy going there too.
So
just the arena part though, right? Like just not the actual.
It's actually kind of fun afterwards. I know you've knocked it a couple times. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
The first time I ever went there for a hockey tournament, we were driving the bus like along this like riverside or creekside.
You played a hockey tournament in Sask?
Yeah, played a hockey tournament there, and we were going down. There's like a river that runs through the city, or like and we look at there's cops on the other side of the road, and we see later on the news that they found a body floating down the river. I'm like, well, nice introduction to Saskatchewan.
Okay, so that's never left your mind.
No, yeah, that's my only.
Poulin, you bring up Sask, and you were lucky enough to win an NLL title in that building, in probably one of the top sporting events that I've ever witnessed live. Like that finale was fucking incredible,
unbelievable.
Talk about the feeling of winning an NLL championship in that barn after working so hard and climbing the ranks in the NLL, like you said, playing behind a bunch of solid netminders, and then finally getting your shot and making the most of it.
The experience, like I also say Sask because I have such a great memory of being in that arena, but winning there was like June 10th, 2017. Yeah. Still know because it was such an awesome experience. It was incredible. Like for me personally, it was 12 years in the NLL. Never, like, we lost in the finals with Calgary. We never got there once. We should have got there a whole bunch more. Never won a Minto. Had never been to a man. I was always that guy who just couldn't get it done. So the feeling of just finally winning was one of the greatest feelings of my life. And it just happened to go down with an incredible finish where, they drop the ball, we come down, tie it, And you can talk about Derek Keenan pulling the goalie in that situation all you want, but he'd do it again. Like that's his system. We actually prepared for that. Like we knew if they were in this situation, Derek does this. We planned for it. And again, they throw a bounce pass and it gets away from them. It happens.
Yeah.
We come down and tie it that way, and then to win a championship in overtime, like it was incredible. Just an unbelievable experience. And I was going through my phone a while ago. I saw you and I in the post game together. Just a couple Kitchener guys, KW Braves enjoying it. But that was extra special personally. Just having never had a sniff at winning. To come that long, 12 years in the NLL, and even longer when you go back to junior and everything, that meant so much. That like my family, I have video of them like watching it. Someone was recording when the overtime went in, and my parents like went nuts. And actually my dad was there in Saskatchewan with me, but my mom and my 5 sisters, my oldest was 2 then. So I've got all the video of like, it was just so cool. It meant so much. And, like I used to get speechless just thinking about it because it was such a long journey to get there. And that team was so good. Like beating Saskatchewan. We had an unbelievable year in Georgia. Like everything came together. I think we were like 13-5 and we were just outscoring the hell out of teams. But like that was the team. They won the previous 2 championships. They won the next one. So they were a juggernaut. And Mark was at the top of the league at that point in scoring and like highlight reel goals. And so just for everything to come together there, I'll never forget it. But yeah, like personally, as everything I went through, it meant so much. And then to be a part of that first year on the Swarm, where it was just like the Cinderella year, it was incredible.
That was probably one of the happiest moments of your life, would you say? What do you think was the happiest moment of your life? And we can cut it if you don't have to lie. You don't have to lie.
Oh man, I joked with. So we started January 1st, 2020. We get in the new decade, and I kind of made this joke with my wife. Oh, I actually really made an elaborate thing about it. It turned out to be a joke, and it was like the best 10 moments of our past decade, and like 6 of them were lacrosse, and she was nowhere to be found in like 6 of those memories. And I was like, but no. So like, obviously, getting married was incredible, and my wife, we've been together since we met when we were 18 years old, and so we've spent so much of our life together, and we've had some incredible memories. Now we have 3 young kids. So I'd say like my ranking is like getting married, 3 young kids, but June 10th, 2017 is absolutely at the top, winning that championship with the Swarm. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the date of my kids' birthdays or my wedding, but I remember the date of the championship. Yeah. So that's got to be the one.
It was just,
the most obvious answer would be, the day my first kid was born. I was waiting for that, but I like that answer better.
I mean, we're in the.
Hopefully, your kids never listen to this podcast.
No, it's true.
Yeah. So we talked a bit about the moves that the NLL is making, and one of the questions I ask on every episode is what you want to see from the NLL. Like if you were to be in the commissioner's chair and you were to make a couple moves, it could be a couple creative things that maybe no one else has mentioned before. But what would you do, or what would you like to see happen?
I've thought about this, like not so much the NLL. I think they've done a good job so far. But the big thing for me is just lacrosse as a whole. Like we're a niche sport. We really are. We're trying to grow. We're trying to gain traction. And so many people who watch the NLL and like know lacrosse from their hometown are like, this is a completely different set of rules. So I wish just lacrosse as a whole would be on the same page. Like from minor to pro, junior in between, like we need to have the same set of rules. Like Ontario plays BC and the Man and Minto, and they need to like figure out whose set they're using some years. So the league, the whole sport needs to be on the same page. I think goalies at a young age shouldn't be allowed to use wooden stick. I mean, I don't think any goalie should use a wooden stick. I think pads should be smaller.
I fucking agree.
Like who wants to go to a lacrosse game and see the score 2-1 when it's like midget age? Take the biggest kid, throw him in there, give him a wooden stick. Can't even throw it to the blue line.
Right. You want to see some athleticism for sure.
So I think at a young age, we need to have the same set of rules through. I personally, and this might just be the talk of a dad with young kids playing the game, but like I think it should be like hockey where hitting is like stick checking up to a certain age and then body checking and then you let them loose. But the number of kids we're losing because they put their like 7-year-old in lacrosse and he gets run over by a kid who's just bigger than him, and then they're like, yeah, my kid's not playing anymore. Or the kid's like, yeah, I'm not doing that ever again. So we're losing a lot of kids at a young age because we let it happen. Like, oh, that's what lacrosse is. But it doesn't have to be. Like hockey changed. They don't hit in hockey till they're like 12, 13. So lacrosse, maybe we should look at that. Maybe we should look at, how do we get someone who's never been to an NLL game to understand what was being called? And in Georgia, we have some, like, everybody in their seat, there's like just a one pager, like it's a guide. What's a 30-second shot? Like that one's pretty standard, but like an 8-second violation. You just see the whistle go and it goes the other way. Like, I remember in Minnesota, they had the professor. I didn't really think that was a good idea, like somebody explaining everything, but you can make things across the board easy to understand in lacrosse, which someone who might be a lacrosse fan or has a kid in lacrosse might come to an NLL game and be like, I don't really understand what's going on yet. So equipment on goalies at a young age, sticks, it doesn't look good. And then the whole rule books being different in different leagues, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we're niche. We need anyone to just come to a lacrosse game to understand what's going on. And that starts from a young age. So that's not necessarily on the NLL. In terms of the NLL, like, Nick Sakevich has done a good job since he's shown up. Like, it was a bit of a gong show before. George Daniels was, keeping the lead. Like, so I'd go to the PLPA meetings, and I was the rep for Calgary for a few years, and we'd sit down and we'd have our day and a half of meetings, and then George would come in for his State of the Union address for the league, and we'd be like all excited, like we've had a day of optimism, we're ready to go, and let's make this league grow. And he'd sit down, he'd be like, "It's not good, guys. It's not good." And we're thinking like, oh, he's bluffing because they don't want to pay the players a lot, and he'd be like, "I can't get any sponsors. Leagues are folding. Teams don't want to." And he'd just be like, just such a beat up look on his face. He'd be like, "Yeah, it's not good." And we'd be like,
"We're in hell right now.
It's going to be okay, man. Like, George, we'll get through this." But like, it was so bad. Like, so yes, I do say Nick is doing a good job because I saw where we were.
Yeah.
But, the suggestions for lacrosse aren't on him. They're on, the CLA and the whole governing board of international lacrosse. But yeah, like I know we've talked a lot about making this a full-time thing, and we're not there yet. We're certainly not there. But if we can just continue to organically grow the game and bring on more fans, we can get there. Mm-hmm. I'll be long gone by then, but it will get there.
Tyson got to ask his business side of questions. I like to ask
business.
Yeah, I like to ask lighter hearted questions. Goalies are fucked. And unanimously, any player's opinion of goalies is they're usually head cases to an extent. You seem like a pretty normal guy. I've met a few of them in my day. Dylan Ward, one of them, he's a little bit fucked. I lived with him for a bit. But what tendencies that you may have before games? Like, do you have any pregame rituals that, like, do you spin around 3 times, knock your head off the post, like those kind of things, like that you can't start the game without doing these?
I'm pretty laid back. I mean, we're doing a podcast on a game day. I don't really I don't have any like pregame
drinking straight vodka.
Bingo. But like, so when I was in on the Rock backing up, I was behind Bob Watson, who's just like, he was very cool and collected. Whenever things were going down the shitter, he'd just be like, "Yeah, what can you do?" So I saw, like, from there, like, I see guys who need to get their minds mentally focused for like an hour. It's like, well, what if you don't have that chance? Like, what if you get to the game 30 minutes before the game because your flight was delayed, and you show up like you're going to play like shit because you weren't able to get your head right for an hour? So I just always saw from Whipper, like, how he carried himself, and I tried to go from there. And like, we played in Madison Square Garden. We had shoot around, and then we were going back to New Jersey, and I was like, "No, I'm good." I brought my suit. I just hung around the arena the whole day and like walked around all the levels and took it all in. And when I was on like backing up Cause, like, he was a stud. I knew I wasn't playing, so I'd go to the Bruins games like during the day. They'd play at 1. The Blazers would play at 7. So I was always like, what do I need to nap for? So I'd go watch the Bruins. And like, I just always was really laid back about the game. I can show up. I don't want to say I can flip a switch and just be on, but like, cause I do have my things. Like, I just like to visualize for about 10 minutes, when I'm in my gear. I like to, in my head, see where I'm going to see shots from tonight. And, in my eyes, it's more of a physical game than a mental game. Mm-hmm. Call me nuts, but I just want to always make sure physically I'm ready. Drink a lot of water, stretch. I drop into a butterfly a lot. So for me, it's more like just watch a lot of video during the week, Monday to Friday. That's one area where the game's changed a lot. When I was on Buffalo, we had like we watched no video whatsoever, and then other teams were doing it. So they bring us in after practice on a Tuesday night. We go up to this room and they start playing video. And like every time where it's like something bad was happening, guys would be like yelling at each other, like Billy's like, I didn't do anything wrong there. Fuck you. And like, so video went from like trying to like get better to like, yeah, let's not do that again. So like back then, never watched a minute of video to now where we have apps on our phones where I can get any sort of video any time of day. I can cut video so that like I want to see every shot Logan has taken in the last 3 years. Easy, that's done.
Yeah.
It's so preparation is done through the week now. So you watch your video, you get your workouts in, and then on game day, it's like, look, just make sure physically you're ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I don't believe you, but I'm going to be at the game tonight and I'm going to be watching you like a Hawk fan. And if I see you tapping the fucking post 3 times or something, I'm going to call you out.
All right. So here are my things.
Okay,
then.
let's hear them.
So I do like this, just inside of my post.
There we go.
Just tap it. I have these like mantras myself, these things I say just to like make sure I'm focused. Because when goals come like bang, 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 I'll sit back and be like, fuck me, what happened? Like I was not focused. I don't know. I guess that must have been the reason why. Not because I was.
What's the mantra there?
Yeah,
I'm a human, not a god.
So no, I just like I'm just always reminding myself to be focused.
Yeah.
So time, situation, score, and I actually learned this from Kurt Milosky. Was every time there was like a possession or whatever's going on in the game, I just like to remind myself, 4 minutes 58 seconds. So I know like, hey, next whistle, I got a TV timeout. Scores, we're up by 1. So be prepared for the goalie being pulled at any time. Those types of things. Time, situation, score. So understand power man short, late in a quarter. Those are the things I talk to myself about it. Try and just be always focused on what we might be seeing. So if we get to a TV timeout tonight and they have the ball and I see, it's the first quarter and Logan shushes on the door, well, there's a good chance that goalie might be making the short run to get him out for a sneak play. Like I'm always trying to pick up on those things in a game versus being like, hey, Mike, you're doing a great job. Don't worry about the score. Like that doesn't have, like I don't go through those things. I'm just always focused on time, situation, score.
Yeah.
So Christian Del Bianco, when he was on the podcast, he was telling us about, his experience in the championship game, like as a young goalie and how scared he was. Like he was open and honest. He's like, I was shitting myself, man. He's like, I'm fucking, 17,000 fans. He's like, he's like, I wasn't like super confident. He's like, I was scared as fuck. Like obviously he was still confident in himself and his abilities, but just to jump back to your championship game, what was your thought process of like just the team's thought process going into the game?
Yeah, I mean, like even 2014, I had those feelings. Like when we lost in Rochester, I was like, I wasn't confident. I wasn't 100% confident in what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was just being like my first time in that spotlight in that situation. 2017, like when we had our first game against them, it was a series. So we knew like, hey, whatever happens tonight, we'll be fine. We went up, we played an unbelievable game, we won. So then you go over to game 2 and now the trophy's in the building and that's when things get real. So we always had that, that safety net in my eyes. Like, hey, we won game 1. It's not a mini game. I fucking lost the championship in a mini game. So I don't, I knew that wasn't happening. So the thought, like you just maybe stress a little bit too much about what might happen. You think a little bit too much of the outcome. And I know like for myself, when Adam Jones scored, I think he made it like 15-14 with a minute left. I'm sitting there thinking, all right, fuck. I wonder, like, are my sisters going to come to the game in Georgia next week? Like, what's going to happen now? And then everything that happened. But there was never, I don't want to say the confidence that you gain from actually winning a championship. Because now that I've got one, like, you feel like I can do it again. Like, winning was such a great feeling. You just want to do it again. And until you get there, you don't have the confidence. And it's funny, like, I've always joked whenever, like, betting on sports, look at, like, if the goalie's in the net and he's never played in a playoff game before, bet against that guy because like my first playoff experience in 2010, I didn't sleep well. I like one game playoffs. When you lose, it's like, the goalie didn't play well. It's really easy to think about those things. So it's funny hearing that because when I see Christian, I think like such a confident, unbelievable goalie who's won at every level now. Yeah. And those are rare. Like he's very rare. I'm one of his, like, we text all the time, him, myself, and Dylan. Like, we were the 3 goalies with Canada. We have a group chat, and it didn't just end that week. We text all the time, and you see him and D Ward, like, they're so confident because, like, they've been there. They've won Minto Cups. D Ward's got a Man Cup. I think he won MVP of that series. And like Christian, he's unbelievable.
T Ward's got a Worlds indoor now and outdoor.
And that's just insane. Like who else does that, indoor and outdoor? So I don't know where I just went from your question.
No, that's
where
good.
I was thinking, but like, it without being there, I was, you doubt yourself. And like I said, I hadn't won shit.
Yeah.
So it's not easy as a goalie to be in that spotlight and be 100% confident. Like, hey, they might be pointing the finger at me at the end of tonight. And I know when we lost in Rochester, I had a terrible game too. Like game 1 in Calgary, it was awesome. Things went perfectly. We won. I think we held them to 7 goals maybe. And then the next night, game 2, like, couldn't stop a beach ball. I ended up getting pulled. They put me back in to finish the 4th to get me ready for that mini game. And we had a 2-0 lead with 2.5 minutes to go. So I lost it in like the worst way you can lose a championship. 2.5 minutes left in a mini game, and we're up by 2 goals and we lose. So, I mean, that stings, right? Like, in the back of your mind, it's always there. So come 2017, I knew how good our team was. Like, I knew we could outscore anyone, but so could Saskatchewan. So it's like, you always have those doubts in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Rest in pieces mini game. Thank God that's gone. Oh man.
And when we won to get to the championship in a mini game, and then we lost. So like I've seen both sides of it.
Right.
I'm just it's just such a joke to me as a sport that fans could be there like,
professional
all right,
level.
the team won. Let's go. Oh wait, what? We got to sit back down and we're at 0-0 again. Like, I'm so glad that thing's gone.
Yeah.
So at this point in the podcast, we usually like to kick it over to producer Ben and see what kind of questions he comes up with for the guests. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. So far, they've been pretty good.
I think he's like 3 for 3.
Yeah, 3 for 3.
So don't fuck up, Ben.
So this week with Toronto and Carolina game, the e-bug and the emergency goalie coming out from the crowd. So every time I watch NLL and I see the goalie in the massive pads, so I was thinking if both goalies went out and you had to pull out a guy from the crowd, do you think he would be over under 20 goals, 650 save percentage? Like, how do you think just a guy out of the Budweiser zone throw on the big pads would do?
I think they'd pull a player, wouldn't they?
Didn't Fields suit up for San Diego this year?
So Connor Kiernan
Or that's it.
he suited up for
It was
the
Connor.
backup. And a couple years ago, Corbin Tao suited up for the Minnesota Swarm.
I remember that, yeah.
And that was like, I mean, we're in Vancouver. I wasn't on the team then, but like the Swarm are in Vancouver. Like, you tell me you can't find a Vancouver. Like, I just thought that was silly. But like, off your question, if we grabbed an accountant off the street and put him in the net, it would get ugly.
Yeah.
Like, most times when you see somebody, they don't even know how to stand. Like, it seems simple, but they don't even know how to stand. So 650 save percentage, I think would be giving them too much credit. But I mean, I think most likely what would happen in lacrosse is we take somebody, and I don't know if you guys remember the Man Cup a few years ago, Victoria versus Nations. Victoria called both Six Nations goalies. So first it was,
I was there.
Brandon Miller and I don't know if it was D Ward or Kirky. I think Kirky and Colin Doyle won a net.
Yeah.
So Doyle played like the 3rd period of a Man Cup game and Six Nations won. So in our sport, we'd most likely just take a guy and go throw him in. But if we were to grab an average Joe off the, out of the crowd, it might get ugly. I mean, I'm an NLL goalie and I've given them 20 goals in a game, so it happens.
Who'd be the guy on your team you think that would go in that?
Like, we have guys who want it. Guys are like, we joke, like, I know the guys say like Brandon Bomberry's he's like a backyard lax goalie. Like, he wants that spot, but. You wonder, do you take your biggest guy and just throw him in there, or do you take someone who you might think is a little more active? If it's going to be me, it's either Bomberry and another guy who wants it, and he's like, yeah, I'm that guy, is Randy Stotts.
Really?
It's like, Randy, we need you. We
Yeah.
need you out there. You stay up there, buddy.
Big part of the offense for sure. A few guys have talked about the characters that you've got on your team, and the Swarm have done a good job now with the new podcast there, getting the guys to kind of have some chats and showcase the personalities. But Shane Jackson's been brought up a couple times.
The driest, funniest humor I've experienced in this league.
Some people have said he's the funniest guy in the
I hear you
league.
turned down the invite today, though.
Yeah.
And he's one of those he's got to have my routine. He's got to get his nap in. So
Yeah.
yeah, we tried.
But yeah, so
Appreciate it.
So some guys have said he's the funniest in the league, and
Yeah. Well, I don't even think he's the funniest on our team. I think
Oh, no?
Krepensek is the funniest guy.
Crap,
on our
really?
team. He's so funny.
Yeah?
He's Larry David, just a younger version of him. Like he's got great little chirps. He complains about little things. It's amazing. So one thing our video guy did last year was he did this like Chirp the Boys segment where we watch video of our last game. So like one was it was Shane Jackson and myself, and then McIntosh and Krepensek watched, and then it's just like
I
you
remember
just
that was
bicker
really
back and
good.
forth. It
Yeah.
was really good, and I think they got that from like a Premier League soccer segment they did. But like those types of things are right. That's what like shows some personality. You know, we wear the mask on our face. It's hard to see the guys and understand who they are. So getting videos like that out for our league are so awesome. So Shane's one, like I know again logistically it's tough to schedule these things with some Eastern guys, but Shane is hilarious and he and Mark Matthews are best buddies. They're just like getting those two. They're unbelievable. They're so funny. They just feed off of each other. They've got this dry voice. It's amazing. So yeah, he's one. He should be on the hit list.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully at some point we get him on. My computer just crashed, so I do have, off the top of my head, I remember we had a fan question. He's a goalie. He wanted to know. He's like, what's one thing you could recommend to young goalies that they should be working on? Is the first question. So, that would be the most beneficial thing to their game. He said.
We've talked about a couple. Don't use the big wooden stick, and you might give up a lot of goals or more goals than you would with a woody, but you're going to become a better goalie in the long run because you actually have, a large part of goaltending is footwork, is being able to know where your posts are, not get lost out there when the ball swings east to west. So for me, it's all about footwork. So if you are focused on that and doing ladder drills before the game and getting yourself ready physically, that helps, goes a long way. The mental side of things, I read a book, Mind Gym. That was really,
I've read that book.
Yeah, it's a good book to recommend to athletes. It's written by a sports psychologist. So if you want to go that side of things, that's a good book to read. But for me, like I always tell kids in lacrosse, like you can't stress over these things. You got to just enjoy it. You're going to give up a ton of goals. Like literally every game, the first goal that goes in, first shot or 10th shot, I said, well, there goes the shutout. And you just got to roll with it because it's going to happen in lacrosse. So, the ball goes in, just get over it and get on to the next one.
So saying that, I always wondered that. I've never like going into a game. Do you think I'm going to get a shutout today? Like I think going into a game, I'm like, fuck, if I don't score a goal, I'm like, this is going to be a bad game for me.
Do
Like,
you set your sights on that?
Yeah. Do you set your sights on the bagel every time? And then like
never. So
you're not
like
you go in, you're like, I'm going to get fucking scored on today. Like,
oh yeah. Oh, I mean, the guys are too good. So I think most teams would go into a game and be like, let's hold these guys to under 10. I think that's like a realistic, what like defenses and goalies in their minds are thinking. Like we hold this team to under 10, we're going to win. And with the offense we have in Georgia, like that should be the case. We just got to hold teams to 10. Never crossed my mind about holding the team to a 0. Actually, in Rochester this year, with like 8 minutes to go, we were up. They had 2 goals on me. It was like 10-2 or 12-2, and they pulled me. And I was like, they put in Kevin Orleman. They're like, and I was like, hey Eddie, I don't even know if that's a record or not, but I mean that's pretty damn low, man. Are you sure? Like, give me a shot.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's not a record. I've been in the arena with a record. We're good, buddy. So yeah, I never like look at the numbers and all that stuff, but man, like even just going in tonight, I know we're not holding Mitch Jones and Logan Shush and Jordan McBride with his hands. I know we're not holding them to 0.
Yeah.
So I'll get over it real quick when the first one goes in.
the other fan question was, who's your favorite goalie to watch, like in the NLL?
Like all time or now? Because
it didn't specify.
Like for me, growing up, it was always Whipper. Like just growing up in the Toronto area, I'm from Waterloo. Back then you only saw Toronto games, so I'd watch Bob Watson. He was the guy. He came to one of my practices when I was a kid. Even Steve Dietrich was close by. Like he's a Kitchener guy, and he coached the team. He was in minor lacrosse, but I mean, we played very different games. So like for me, it was always Bob Watson. I love the way Christian plays the game. So like I said, I saw it. I could see it right away. Like this guy's active. He moves well. He sees it and he reacts to it. Like some games, like last game, Georgia, Calgary, 18-17, the balls go in. It doesn't matter if you're the best goalie in the league, you're going to have a night like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was beating him. I know he's tweeted, like, they're not all pretty. But I love watching the way he plays the game.
Yeah.
Like, he's active, he steps out, he makes great saves. Vino is like the best of all time.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. 7 goalie of the year awards in 10 years. Like, come on, enough. That's enough. Let other guys have a chance. Yeah. He's the best of all time. It's awesome to be playing with him again in Peterborough because, like, we're kind of yin and yang. We're different in our preparation and stuff. Like, he's so knowledgeable about the game. Like, he knows his system. Like, this is what he wants guys doing, and he knows what the shooter's going to do if we do this. And, like, it's really cool to see that side of things. But in terms of, like, the way their style, for me, it's CDB.
I know. So you've won a Man Cup and a NLL championship, right? Which one do you think was harder to win, or which one did you enjoy winning more?
I enjoyed, like, the best feeling in the world was the NLL championship. I loved it just because that was the monkey off my back. That one was awesome. The hardest one was the Man Cup. Just like what would we play 5 games in 6 days, and coming out to Vic, and that atmosphere in Victoria was unbelievable. And we got smoked game 1. It was like 13-6. Victoria pounded us.
Yeah, I
was like, damn, like. Don't know who a lot of these guys are on their team, but they do work hard. Like, this is watching shit.
That. I was like, how is this gonna go?
Yeah. And then, and I mean, like I get it. I was the guy bashing Peterborough, like the way it was built, and like I was the guy, like, the Man Cup. What does it mean anymore? But that was tough, and it meant a lot. So for me to come there and for us to win, that was awesome. And it was their 3rd in a row, but for me, it was the first one, so lay off. But like. I think the league summer lacrosse is somewhat correcting itself out west here with the ability to just rent players or trade players and then get them back. I mean, the East has been doing it forever, and they've dominated the Man Cup lately. So hopefully that brings a balance of things. Like, who would have guessed that Langley is going to be stacked this summer? Like, it's happening. And then Peterborough will be good again. Six Nations is loading up again. Brampton is growing, the right way. They've had, like, again, when you have Jeff Teat coming up, and Nanaimo's is they're a team to be not take lightly. Like Jeff, like we mentioned him earlier, like Jeff Teat he's the type of guy who you can build a franchise around quick. He's that good. I hadn't seen him play until last summer, and he's legit. So
I watched him play in junior. He was in K-Dub, and holy smokes.
Yeah.
He was unstoppable. The guys on Kitchener had no idea what to do when he was on the floor. Like, he makes something out of nothing.
But it's
all
like,
the time.
that's the guy. Like, that's what the funny thing is. It's like, hey, lock him off. Well, you can't. Like, somebody's going to set a pick for him. He's going to open up and he's just going to fire it. Like, he's that good. So, like, lacrosse fans, be aware. Like, Jeff Teat's coming up the pipe and he's that good. So,
who gets him? What do you think? Rochester, New York. There's the battle for the basement right now.
Or Dallas.
Battle for the basement.
Yeah. Tank for Teat.
Yeah, tank for Teat. I like it. It's worth it. It's worth it if you're close.
Put it on a t-shirt.
I think he's going to New York.
Now, I've heard Dallas is coming in. Is that not a thing?
No, not next year.
Okay.
I think it's the year after.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because they do need time to market it and grow it. But like, I heard a couple of years ago, the Board of Governors were like, no expansion in this season because everybody wants a fair shot at Jeff Teat.
Oh.
So,
whoa.
I would love to be a fly on the wall on a Board of Governors meeting.
As a young up and governor, really.
Yeah. Well, he's had it his whole life. When I was in Buffalo in 2006, Dan Teat was on the team.
Yeah.
And like Jeff Teat was on the floor. I'm heading up to the press box like after first warm up, and he's on the floor like shagging balls and taking shots at Ryan Avery or Kenny Montour as the backup in there, and like he's been around the game his whole life. It's like he's ready for it.
Who'd you say his game is the closest to in the current NLL? Like, which
he's I'd say he's like current. I like to compare him to Josh Anderson just with a better outside shot, because he rips it around guys, brings it back short side. So you see that sidearm coming, you want to lean this way, and he brings it short side so well. Like, well, that's what he did to me all summer. Yeah. But he's a great feeder, and he's, that Clark Peterson chemistry was there in the summer that I saw, and then Tyson Gibson, he grew up playing with him, I think, in Brampton as well. So like he's plays with some good players, and he brings their level up. That's what I know. Like, again, this was my only one season of actually seeing him play, and it was worth the hype.
Well, New York, get excited. He's going there.
They beat us, man. I don't know what to say.
I got
Oh,
one.
right. Yeah.
I got one last question. Producer Ben's going to be in the house tonight. Ben, who do you think's going to win the game tonight?
I got to go with Georgia. He's coming. He's our
My
guest.
man.
So,
My
yeah.
man.
But
Can't
again,
comment.
it's good to see Vancouver win as well to get the fans going and to bring people into the barn. But he came out here to record a podcast, so I got to be pulling for Georgia tonight.
Fucking A.
All you got to do, visiting teams, you just got to show up and record a podcast on game day, and you've got a new fan.
There you go. One of the things that Colt usually likes to do, but I'm going to do it. We usually close out on this note, but do you have any questions for us?
Oh, I thought you were going to say read bad.
Yeah, I was expecting Tyson when you were talking about Mind
His
Gym.
computer crashed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It
Good.
crashed, so
Yeah.
you can't read anything
All
on
right.
it. I know.
My-
Software update.
When we were talking about Mind Gym, I was expecting you to be like, yeah, right, you read that book.
We're going to throw shade. It's all good.
Question for you guys. No, I think you guys are doing an awesome job. Like I said, I sit at a desk with what I do, so I like to have things on YouTube in the corner, and I like to, keep some noise in the background. I really enjoy listening to you guys and like what you're building here. So more or less a question, but no question, but just keep it up and good luck.
Cheers, thank you.
Appreciate that. Background noise. That's what we
Yeah.
go for.
But before we go, follow us on social media. Sponsors, as always, please click the link to subscribe. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast, taking the time out of your day on game day. Hopefully this plays out for you.
guys
Don't
aren't
blame
gonna
us
release
if
this, right? If I get pulled 5 minutes in,
we'll
just
we'll
bury
release
this
it in
thing.
2 weeks.
Yeah. I'll have it cut and ready to go for tonight.
A lot of
just to
edits.
put it
A
out.
lot of edits after this one.
Man.
All right.
Yeah, Poulin, one of the best who have ever done it. We appreciate
My
you
pleasure,
coming out
guys.
and,
Thank
and
you.
taking the time. And you make the K-Dub alumni proud, man.
Awesome. Thanks very
Cheers.
much, guys. Appreciate
Cheers.
it.
Thanks for listening to the Strip Podcast. Catch a new episode every Wednesday. We're giving away prizes every week. Follow along with our social channels at Lacrosse Flash.